Where's Karen?
She's going to be a little late.
Okay.
Just a
Oh,
few
that's-
minutes late.
Sure,
Okay,
Karen's not
so
here yet.
Chair Oates called us to order. Jeff or Chair, anything you guys want to say before we get started on our agenda today?
I have nothing today. Thank you.
It's all yours.
All right. Well, with that, I just want to say Happy New Year to everybody. And I hope you guys all enjoyed the holiday. We made it to 2021. I don't know if it feels any different yet than 2020, but hopefully we'll be on a trajectory here soon for good things in the new year. I sent out the agenda, and again, my apologies. I hope that didn't throw anybody off. I still had the same times plugged in for today. And so I'm glad everybody showed up here at 2 o'clock, and I hope you had something better to do at 1, that you were able to make good use of that time. So just to go through our agenda, I sent out the link to the mural board, so you can follow along on there if you'd like, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for a moment while we take a look at this, at our game plan for today. So can you all see that here as I zoom in? All right, so our outcomes for today, our goal overall, the purpose for these workshops is to develop a strategic plan to identify the county's priorities for the next 5 years. And so last time we talked quite a bit about just kind of setting the stage for our process, talking quite a bit about the context in which we're going to be doing some goal setting. And so for today's outcomes, we want to make sure that we finalize and confirm the understanding of that context and the environment. And then you had a little homework assignment to think about the vision for the county. And so we're going to go ahead and identify and align around a shared vision for Hood River County, and then set the stage for identifying goals, actions, and priorities for the strategic plan. So those are the outcomes that we hope to achieve in today's meeting. How we're going to get there. So right now we're doing our workshop overview and talking through our agenda. We'll do a quick team check-in to introduce any new members and just kind of get centered around what we're doing today. At 2:30, and then we'll do a quick recap of some of the things we talked about in the first workshop. So if you weren't part of that or ready for or just need a little debrief, we'll talk through that context piece again. We'll also have a chance, if there was anything missing in that context that you felt like is really important to bring up, let's have a conversation around that as well, and we can add to it. Then at 2:35, we will jump into our vision activity. So some of you, you certainly didn't have to. Some people sent their work to me ahead of time. And so I know that there's some really good ideas out there already. And if you didn't send it ahead of time, no worries. Just bring your ideas to your small group discussion, and you guys will be well on your way to getting that accomplished when you get into your small groups. So we'll do that in 3 small groups. Then we'll debrief that exercise and talk about some of the themes that came out of it. We'll take a break at 3:35 for 10 minutes. And then come back and talk more about that vision, and hopefully through those themes that came out of that exercise, get aligned around a shared vision and start to see some of those goals emerge from that discussion. At 4:15, we'll talk through the process for defining goals and actions, and just be clear that we're all on the same page when we think about what are goals, what are actions, and get you set to be thinking about that. We will have some time to talk a little bit about it today and hopefully get a head start on it, but then send you on your way to do a little work in between our next session, our next workshop. I'll make sure you have a clear homework assignment to prepare for that, so that we can wrap up the goals and actions during workshop number 3. We'll take a few minutes at the end to just kind of debrief everything that we did and check in with everybody and see where we're at, and then get you on your way by 5 o'clock. Any questions about the agenda so far?
Sarah, just a quick one. The link that you sent us for the mural, the the mural page doesn't seem to be the same one that you have up. It looks like it's the one from the last
So
session.
the one from the last session is going to be on there. So I'm going to ask everybody who's on Mural, I'm going to ask you to follow me. And so that should bring you to where I am. I'm also going to summon you. So you should, do you see where I'm at now?
I just left there. Let me get back on.
Because we're working from the same board.
Mine says I'm following Sarah Wilson now.
Did that work? Commissioner?
Not for me yet.
I'm going to summon one more time and see if that brings you over.
Oh yeah, now it does. Yep,
There you are. I see you. Okay.
got it. Yep.
Good. Yeah, at
Thank
any time, if you're trying to get back to where the group is, you can follow me. You can click on my icon and follow me. And that should keep you to make sure you're where you want to be on the board so you don't get lost. And I've tried to lock everything down so that hopefully none of our notes get moved around here. Not the end of I have a copy of it if need be, so not the end of the world if anything does, but just don't be scared of the mural board. It can be a really helpful tool. Okay, just to kind of reorient to our ground rules. So last time we talked about just be patient with the technology and each other. If you need any support, please do let me know and I'll do my best to help you. As far as making sure that everybody is engaging and I'm able to see everybody who wants to speak up and engage, use the hand raise feature on Zoom, and I try to do my best to pay attention to it and get to you in the order that you raise them. We want everybody to speak freely and say what you think. You get out of this what you put into it. So it's really important for everybody to participate and to engage. I know we have some members of the public with us here today. Thank you for being here. And just to be clear about how this process works, this is a work session. And so there's not a time for public comment, but it's wonderful that you're here to listen to this conversation, and there'll be time for public comment, I believe, later when the commission approves this during a regular meeting. Okay, so participate, engage, share ideas, be open-minded, and don't be defensive. We're here to just to share and make sure that we get a plan that best serves the county. So my role is to guide you in the process. The commissioners are here to set the goals and the priorities and provide direction. They represent the constituents. The county management team, they're here to provide the organizational and technical expertise and ensure that the goals align with resources. So those are our roles. They're all super important as we move through this process. All right, any other questions before we get rolling? Okay, well, I want to take us back for just a moment to, I'm sorry, I almost forgot. Let's go ahead and just I'm going to stop sharing here for a second. Do we have any new members with us today? I know the legal counsel is here, Lisa Davies, and she's new, I believe. Lisa, are you with us?
I am. I'm not new. I was here last time.
You were here last time. Sorry. I apologize for that. Welcome back. Thanks, Lisa. Anybody who wasn't here last time? I think we have everybody that didn't get to do an introduction. Okay. Well, good. Then that part of business is taken care of. And I see Commissioner Joplin joined us. Welcome. Well, as we get started, I want you to just take a moment. We did this last time to just kind of get centered on this work today. Now that I've taken you through the agenda and what we're going to be working on, just take a moment to take a deep breath. Maybe close your eyes if that's helpful, and just recall last time I had you think about your intention for this process. And if you're on the mural board, you can look back and those blue Post-its where you did your introductions, you talked about those intentions for this process. So if you can, just take a moment, reflect on what that intention was. And maybe this time as we go through this work, it's the same. Maybe your intention remains the same. And maybe it's shifted a little bit, as before we were talking about the context, and today we're going to go really big picture and think about what the greater vision is for Hood River County. And so just think about your intention in this work and try to be intentional about it as we move through these exercises. Really establishing the vision and thinking about, you know, what you want Hood River County to be in the next 5 years, the direction you want it to move. And so with that, just keep it in mind. If you feel like it's getting off course or you're getting distracted at any point in time, just think back, maybe write the intention down and try to think back to it from time to time as we move through our work today. All right. So before we get started in our vision exercise, let's just do a quick recap from the context work that we did in session 1. And I'm going to go back to sharing the screen here. So you can see we did the context map where we talked about the regional factors and trends and changing demographics, you know, the community owning a lot of second homes and the impacts that has to the neighborhood, dual language in our communications to be more inclusive, influx of visitors. We talked about some political factors, so that general just lack of trust in government. Lack of trust is a real leadership opportunity for the county, and people are looking for leadership right now. Staying local and focusing local. So recognizing that what's happening nationally doesn't need to reflect locally. We talked about the economic climate and just recognizing that funding has been a long time challenge for the county. We've got this measure that's kind of a stopgap thing for 5 years, but recognizing that there needs to be accountability to the voters who approved it. We also talked about some organizational workforce trends. So some high turnover rates, local government employees doing more work from home, thinking about what that looks like in the future. We talked about community needs. So external pressures increasing around use of forest land, affordable housing, enforcement of ordinances. We talked about some uncertainties. So, you know, what's going to happen post-pandemic, what sort of funding is going to be available. We talked about technology factors and the need to modernize the organization and what can we do to modernize IT systems to support the work and be able to shift and adjust tech to accommodate employees and a more mobile society. So just a few of the highlights from our discussion around context. Were there any questions on any of this or anything that we missed since you had a chance to kind of reflect on this since our last meeting? Anybody? Looking to see if there's any hands that come up here. Not seeing any. Okay. Anything on challenges or opportunities or strengths? This was our SPOT analysis that we talked through the last time. So just kind of reorienting some of the problems that we recognized. So just continued decrease in funding from the state, legalization of drugs, funding from the states being siloed and restricted, employees, working double time, having to take advantage or having trouble taking advantage of additional training. Financial stress has caused all sorts of issues in the organization. Employee turnover results in loss of resources. Some opportunities that you guys touched on. So more communication for improved access. Recognizing that the measure provides an opportunity to get back on their feet. Analyze staffing and compensation levels. There were quite a few more over here. Common vision that all departments can get behind and a message to carry it forward. So those were just a few of the opportunities that were talked about. Was there anything else on here? Or anything else that you guys wanted to add as far as opportunities or challenges go? Okay, again, not seeing any. There was one as I was looking through the notes. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. The notes from the interviews that you guys talked about, and it's just around improving communication between staff and the commission. I don't know that we talked about that specifically last time, but it was acknowledged by both the commission and by the management team that as we go through this process, thinking towards the end when we maybe talk about a team agreement, I just want you guys to be thinking about, and I asked you in your interviews what you need from each other to be successful, but I just want to acknowledge that that's been a challenge from time to time, especially in the last year where everything's been so virtual and it can be a little clunky. Not being able to have some of that face-to-face interaction except through small squares on a screen. So I just want to acknowledge that that came up in the interviews, and it didn't necessarily come up, I don't think, in our last conversation, but I want you all to be thinking about that because you did acknowledge it, and it's something that we can work on through this process. Any reactions to that or any opposition if I add that to the map? Is something that we want to work on? Okay. All right, well, you guys are a quiet group this morning. So to get you talking, we're gonna shift you into your visioning exercise. And we talked about this the last time. I shared it in email. So what you guys are doing is trying to imagine that you're doing these headlines from the future. And I'm gonna put you in small groups to do this, and you're gonna have 30 minutes to work on it. And so my hope is that since you had time to think about it ahead of time, that you'll take those ideas that you reflected on and share them in your small group discussion. And if you would like, you can select somebody from the group to actually work on the mural board if you feel comfortable doing that. I have the templates up there, and so you can add to it. If not, if nobody feels comfortable playing around on that, you can just have somebody, make sure somebody's recording the comments so that when you report out as a group, at least I can capture the notes as you're talking. And so I'm going to move over to the exercise. And if you're following me, you can see. So we'll have 3 teams, and you'll go through your notes and think about, what's the publication that you selected? Where's this news story being published? You'll think through and talk about your ideas for the main points of the story. If any imagery comes to mind, talk about your big headline. I'm going to share my screen so you can see the template here. So talk about the headline, your main points. You can do just some general brainstorming up here and add notes there. If there's any buzz that you wrote in your notes about what's happening on social media, you can jot those ideas down here. If there's any supporting details of your story, you can put that there. And just to give you an idea of how Mural works, if you just double click anywhere on the page, it's going to pull up a Post-it note. You can change the color to any color that you want. Over here is a huge icon, or library of icons. You can type anything in there, and there's all sorts of things that pop up. If you want an image, you could type in Hood River and see what sort of images come up and place anything you want right on the page. So that's how those works. Up here, this is text, sticky notes. So if somebody feels comfortable recording on the template itself, please go ahead and use that. And if not, it's not a big deal either. I have you guys broken into groups. I think I have 5 people in each group, and we'll see. Again, I think I've got everybody. I know that Lisa was one that called in, so I've made sure to capture her in a group, and just want to make sure that we don't end up, for the members of the public that are participating, you guys won't be in the small group conversation, but you will be, you'll get to hear the report out and get to hear what the groups came up with. So stay tuned. All right, any questions about this exercise? My hope for it is that this is where you can have some real breakthrough thinking. And oh, I see a question from Commissioner Babbitts and Commissioner Benton. Commissioner Babbitt?
Yes, so I guess I'm a little confused. I thought that we were doing multiple ideas per person, and it looks like this is one idea per group. So are we boiling it down to our best idea, or how is this breakout supposed to work?
Yeah, no, it's multiple ideas per group. So you each get your own template. So we've got team 1, Team 2 has their own, and Team 3 has their own. So you guys all reflected on lots of ideas, and I'm hoping as a group that you guys will come to some consensus on how you want to write your vision story. Does that make sense?
Is it a single story, a single headline per group, or multiple headlines?
Yeah, it's typically a single headline. Some groups occasionally will come up with a headline and then a subheadline. And then there's, if you imagine like you're reading a magazine and you open the table of contents, like the main points that come up might be listed here. So there may be some subheadlines, and then there may be some supporting details. So there can be different supporting stories, if you will, for your headline. Does that hopefully not make it more confusing? I hope that was helpful.
We'll see.
I'll check in on the groups as you guys are working, and I'll bounce from group to group to make sure that everybody's on track. Commissioner Benton?
I think that explained it. My question was along the same lines as Commissioner Babbitt's, in that, I mean, I put together kind of my own, headline with supporting information. If it doesn't jive with anybody's in the group, I guess but I'll figure it out. It's just, I don't know. I guess I was a little confused as well. So, but let's give it a shot.
Okay. Yeah, I think as you guys share your ideas, you may even come up with a better headline. Occasionally that's what happens. As you listen to the brainstorming that occurs, you might see some synergy or some themes come out of these conversations, and you'll think of an even better headline than what you came up with on your own. And maybe not, maybe your headline's the winning one for the team, and you take the lead in the group and with some of the ideas you came up with. We'll give it a shot. I'll bounce around, and let's see, Brian?
Mine's just a silly quick question. What happens to the public when we go into our 3 groups? You mentioned they wouldn't be able to hear. Yes,
they stay in the main session, and then they'll be able to hear your report out. So that's how the breakout groups work in Zoom. It was the same the last time. Any other questions about that? All right. Oh, Trish? Trish, did you have a question as well?
I'm wondering what the timeline is for this headline.
So our vision that we're working on, great question, is 5 years.
5 years from now.
You're imagining 5 years from now.
Okay.
Years 2026. And things in life in Hood River is good. So tell us why. All right, so I'm going to put you into your breakout groups. Like I said, I'll bounce around to visit you guys. And here we go. Oh, Karen, and I might need to assign you guys, just a moment. There you go. You should be headed into your respective groups here.
and I don't have a headline. But Bob, I didn't hear yours. Could I hear yours? They
Yeah,
got to
so-
move me over to the meeting late.
So it's my headline that I chose was Hood River does the impossible, with the smaller kind of headline under it stating how a small dynamic Oregon County achieved fiscal sustainability without raising taxes.
I like it.
And
Mhm.
and then when I went through the details, it touched on similar things: consolidation of services, like Belinda mentioned, and obviously the burden on the health department that we have currently, that would be resolved. But it also had a lot to do with communication with the public. Other things, figuring out a way for tourism to help fuel the county financial success, figuring out a way to tie that together somehow. And then, just fulfilling out basically our commitment to the voters, and that, the levy was not intended to be perpetual. And so hopefully we can keep that from happening. And I back to what Trish said, I looked at this a little bit like a fantasy as I'm not entirely sure. And when I thought of some images that came to mind, like, how do we get there? It was a bit like thinking of the moon landing, or mapping the human genome in its difficulty, even though it doesn't sound that hard from an elected official standpoint. And as members of the management team, you all know how hard this is to get to a fiscally sustainable place in government without taxes. And so to me, that seemed like a really, anyway, that's where my mind was at. It kind of narrow in scope, I guess. I didn't go into a whole bunch. I mean, I like Mike, how he brought up all the separate things. I was mostly looking at more narrowly just fiscal, but anyway, that's kind of where I ended up.
You guys sound like you're off to a good start. Any questions? You sound like you've got a really good grasp on it.
Sarah, do you want us to fill in some of those places, or what do you want us to do?
If you want to fill it in, otherwise, if somebody wants to take notes, then when you report out, I'll fill it in as you talk through it. Again, just depends on your comfort with the technology and playing around on the mural board. So if you feel comfortable, go ahead and put your notes in there. And otherwise, just have somebody record so you can do your report out. Sound good?
Mr. Chair, are you writing any of this stuff down?
Pardon?
Are you writing any of this stuff down?
Well, I am, but I don't know how to put it into those little squares very well.
That's
Well,
all right. As long as you write it down, that's all that matters. I can listen and type really fast as you guys are talking and presenting. Okay.
Okay, so when we come up with like different ideas for our main title, we should probably discuss it till we come up with one.
Yep.
Okay.
And come up with one for the group. And then, as you think about it, I know, as Commissioner Benton was saying, like, it feels, kind of futuristic and a little out there, but the idea is to really like open your imagination to think of that, because that's where you'll have some breakthrough thinking. Otherwise, if I gave you the assignment to just sit down and come up with a vision statement, first of all, that's not very fun and it's really hard. So this kind of gets you thinking in that really big picture, long-term vantage point. I think I heard some of the conversation as I popped in, and I saw some of the notes. I know Cheryl put some together, and Chair Oates, you did as well. So I think you guys are probably off to a really good start here. So just ping me if you need anything, and I'll come back and check on you guys again in a little while.
So Cheryl, you.
The City of Hood River Police Department, plenty of affordable housing and public informed and engaged. But I thought Eric expanded on all those much better than I did.
Right.
Okay.
Jeff, did you get Eric's ideas down?
Yeah, I think I got those. I got a long-term funding source. Polls show public satisfaction with county services. Property was made available through public-private partnerships for affordable housing, and there's a surplus of affordable housing, or an adequate inventory, maybe it's a better politically correct way to say that.
Just so I won't laugh. Yeah.
And then the county's able to retain staff, and staff has have high satisfaction with their work. Did I get it all, Eric, or did I miss something?
Just one other one was just, we've improved our efficiencies through modernization efforts.
You mean we can take credit cards?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
We're already there.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you can sort of take credit cards. I've just been through that buying election list from Brian. It's not exactly what I would call a modern system.
It's a little clunky, isn't it, Art?
Just a little bit. I mean, I was able to get through it. It's actually not that much worse than the state system. So, yeah.
I'm just checking in on you guys. You sound like you're doing good. Any
We are.
questions? Okay. All right. You guys sound like you're off to the races. Ping me if you need anything. Otherwise, I'm going to.
How do we ping you?
Okay.
How do we ping you if we
Oh,
want?
how do you do that?
Yeah.
There should be, because I don't see your screen. There
Is
should
there
be
ask for
down
help?
at
Is that
bottom
the,
that- What was that?
there's an ask for help?
Yep,
Is
it's the
that-
ask
is
for
that-
help
oh,
button.
That's it? Okay,
That's
great.
it. And I'll jump back in. Okay, keep going.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Get a fancy headline out of it. So with that said, that was kind of why I leaned more towards, you know, and I didn't dump a whole lot of time into this, but more towards something that the public could see, the community could see and place value on, where they may not do so with the technology piece. And so, you know, Les, I think you have a better pulse on the public than I certainly do. And so that's what I struggle with, is when I think of a headline, I think of what's going to interest a lot of people. What do they feel is going to be worth their money? You know, so where we have to think of different things. We have to think of like the long-term revenue streams and all that, and they may not get that.
I think that's hard because I think the headlines that people generally want to read about government are not good headlines for the government. Usually,
Right.
it's better when government is not in headlines. And yes, you're right. I struggle with that myself, is looking at that technology and you know, contentment with the workplace and, you know, recruitment and retention aren't exactly super exciting things for most people in the general public. So for the same reasons, I had a hard time coming up with a catchy headline, which is what pushed me into the forestry recreation, because that is something that people tend to engage with a little easier. And then, you know, the other pieces are an aspect of that, but that I struggle with the same thing, Tina.
So this can be a hard exercise. I want to challenge you guys a little bit to think so imagine that government was so, like, you could do something like government so efficient, or, you know, new technology makes it so efficient. I wasn't here for the beginning part of that taxes were decreased or something, or so efficient that we were able to completely build out our trail system in the recreation area, and Hood River's #1 for recreation, or, you know, something like that. So you can, you know, tie it to something more splashy and exciting and make those sub headlines some of those other things. So don't be afraid to dream big. I mean, you could imagine a tax decrease. That would certainly make headlines. That doesn't happen very often. So there are some government headlines I think that would be worth reading. So don't limit yourself. The point of this is to be able to think really big picture, to be able to have some breakthrough thinking about how you could actually achieve something like this.
We don't want to steal Bob Benton's thunder, because I guarantee you his is going to have something about reducing taxes.
Well, I popped in on that group earlier and I didn't hear it go in that direction quite yet. So maybe you can claim that thunder for yourselves. All right. Do you guys have any questions? So it sounds like you're on the right track with your discussion, but just don't be afraid to really be kind of big and bold and even a little creative and silly with it. you'd be surprised. That's where some of the best ideas start to surface.
Okay.
All right. Just there's a ask for help button at the bottom. So if you need anything or need some direction as you work through it, just don't hesitate to.
What time are we coming out of this?
You guys have another 18 minutes.
Okay.
So, all right, I'll check on you again before it's all done. Heidi? Heidi, are you there?
Yes. Hi, I got dumped out.
Oh, shoot. Do you want me to put you back in? Were you in team 3 with?
I was in team 3. Yes. Thank you.
Yep, I'm going to put you back in just a moment. There you go.
Thanks.
Anyway.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you.
That's up.
You guys have, sorry, you guys have 5 minutes. Are you good or do you need more time than that?
We have a headline and we have started down through some of the main points. If that's kind of as far as we've gotten.
Okay. All right. I'll see where the other groups are and maybe we'll give a little extra time so that you guys have enough time to get through. So I will send a message out to the group after I check in on them.
We can do a lot better. Oh, there she is.
How are you guys doing?
We're doing okay. We're just not sure how, I guess the question that came up is we're not sure when we report back, we had sort of a broad variety of ideas and we've kind of consolidated into under a kind of a main headline or a couple of headlines, but we're not sure how is this all translating into a strategic plan with multiple bullet items for what, basically a work plan for the county. How does that all get translated?
Yeah, so these steps all kind of build on each other. So we talked about the context, then you want to align around a vision. And then once we have the vision, the central piece that's, the desired future state that we're headed towards, then we're going to start to think about what are the goals that will help to get us there. And so this exercise is it's really challenging to give a group an assignment and say, go come up with brainstorm some ideas for a vision statement. So this is just kind of a more fun way to start to see the themes that emerge from the group for a vision statement. Does that
But
make
so we
sense?
get to pick goals. The next step, we're going to pick goals out of this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And what you'll hear in this exercise is people start to report. We're going to hear some common themes that emerge that are going to give us a head start on those goals.
We almost all had the same idea to start with, so.
Good. Yeah,
I suspect that will be likely.
Sarah, one of the things we did talk about is, you know, one of our group members mentioned more of a simple, like, or a singular item, and then kind of some of us talked more about broad brush. And I just mentioned that, you know, in my interview with you, this isn't something I wanted to see end up on a shelf. And so how do we keep this attainable, I guess, is really what I'm pointing at.
Yeah. And so you want there to be, you know, you want it to be big picture. You want the county to stretch in a direction, right, towards a vision. But yes, you do still want it to be attainable. And so we'll talk, so those goals might feel really big, but when we get into the action steps, some of the things that will help to move you towards the goals, those are the more incremental things that will feel achievable, kind of the bite-sized pieces that will move you there. And then at the very end, we'll talk about what's the structure to keep it alive. You know, at what interval are we going to report progress back to the commission? And how, you know, annually, how are you guys going to look at this plan and make updates to ensure that it remains relevant based on, you know, however the context of the county shifts from year to year. So we'll talk about how to enhance or create a system of accountability to implement the plan as we get towards the end. Does that answer your question?
It certainly does. Thank you.
Good. Okay. So you guys, we have now just a minute and a half left. Do you guys want, should we add some more time?
I think it would be helpful for us just to review we have all the ideas down, but maybe we should just review them so that Jeff doesn't struggle too much when he has to present it.
Well, I just figured you guys would completely correct me if I'm out of line at all in what I say.
I was thinking we could rehearse it.
All right, I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes because one of the other groups needed a little more time. So 5 minutes seems like the right
Okay.
amount. Okay.
Excited to see solutions at the local level, and excited that problems can be solved within a community without having a savior from the outside. That's always the part that drives me nuts, is I feel like communities wait for the state or the federal government to step in and solve the issues.
How are you guys doing? I'm just checking in.
I think we're ready.
You guys are ready? Okay. Well, you have 5 more minutes. So if you're ready, take a 5 minutes.
I have that we have 0 more minutes.
You do have 0 minutes, but the other groups need it a little more time. So we compromise.
They're just not efficient. Wow.
Yeah, it's true. See, you guys are going to steal the thunder. So you have 5 minutes. So if you want to take a quick 5-minute break, do that. And then I'll bring everybody back into the group to debrief.
Thanks, Sarah.
You bet.
I'm going to take
All right, how'd you guys do?
Did well, but it looks like there are fewer of us here now.
They're coming back. Here they
Oh,
come.
okay.
First you get the option to come back, then it forces you back in. All right, I think we have everybody back now. Oh, still a few more. There we go. All right, was everybody able to finish? For the most part? Yes, kind of?
Yep.
Okay, all right, we'll fill it in. Is there any group that wants to go first? Any volunteers? Who is that?
This is Jeff.
Jeff, all right. Are you guys team 2?
I don't remember. Which are we?
We are team 2, that's correct.
Team 2, all right. So I will, if you guys want to, I don't know who's planning to present, but if you want to go ahead, I will fill in as we go on your chart here.
So I believe I've been designated to represent the group, and I welcome anyone from the group to chime in when I don't say it right. So please do that. So we had a couple of choices for headlines. One of those was Hood River County, what a difference 5 years makes. And then secondly is whatever happened to Hood River County. We had a wide variety of potential bullet points. And while there were some commonalities, there were some differences amongst the group members. And I'm going to just kind of go through these. Recreation is a really positive attribute, and it's enhanced as a result of our forest being expanded. And we have been able to maintain great experiences in the forest despite increased numbers of people using the forest.
Wait, can you repeat that last one? So I have recreation enhanced as a result of forest expansion.
And the experience in the forest, recreational experience in the forest has been able to be enhanced despite the increasing numbers of users.
Okay, great, thank you.
The county's funding issues are resolved.
Okay.
And the county is able to ask for less in its levy than it had when it was first proposed.
Okay.
Part of that has to do with the expanded forest. Part of it has to do with the recreation program being self-supporting. Let's see, we have consolidated government, and as an example of that, there's a consolidated city and county public facilities or public services complex.
What was that? What was the complex?
Public services complex.
Okay.
The county has an informed and engaged public, and polls show that Hood River County residents support Hood River County.
Okay.
The county has been able to be inclusive largely as a result of its efforts to create affordable housing in the county so that a variety of people from varying socioeconomic backgrounds can live here. The county is able to retain staff, which has high job satisfaction. And the county's been able to improve efficiencies through the use of technology and through improved broadband quality within the county. The economy has roared back despite a set of setbacks, namely the Eagle Creek fire and COVID, and the county's economy is more diversified than it has been.
Hold on, I'm gonna have to start another list up here. Okay. What was the one about the economy expansion? The last one you said?
it's more diversified than it
Okay.
ever has been. It's despite setbacks from the Eagle Creek fire, from COVID, the economy has roared back and is even stronger than it was 5 years ago. And it's even more diversified.
Okay.
All right, did I leave anything out, team?
I think you got it.
All right, and then we got our buzz.
Okay.
Got a little bit of buzz going on.
What are people saying?
They are sharing their personal experiences, and those personal experiences are demonstrating what a great place this is to be, Hood River County. And the other thing that's occurring is people are sharing their support from, and I say people, both residents and visitors, for what's going on in Hood River County. There's general overall support for what's happening. And we have a hashtag, it's local government done right, Hood River County. There you go. Anything else, team?
Nice work.
Good
Great
work, yeah.
job.
All right. Any images or imagery you guys talked about in your conversations?
I think we have a picture of our new combined facility with the courthouse and with law enforcement and all of that. Bob, why are you laughing?
All right.
I'm
Or just
excited about it. I want to see it.
We have
Oh, okay.
pictures of people recreating in Hood River County.
okay.
Forestry
life-size
Department
bronze-
opening up a new trail.
Let's see if I can find. Here, we'll throw this one in here.
I think we have a life-size bronze statue of Bob out front.
All right, so here let me just share my screen so you can see how this came together. You can tell me if my images are way off.
Just hope that bronze statue has a mullet.
Poor Bob.
It's Commissioner Perkins, let's be honest, out there in front. I mean, after serving for 50 years, they put a statue of him out there.
Has it been just 50?
All right, great job, you guys. Well done. Hopefully we'll see some themes as some of the other groups share. Okay, who wants to go next?
Group 3 will go, since I can see right now that the last group to go is going to be screwed.
Oh, it's all good. Okay, let me, all right, so group 3, tell us about your headline first.
Hood River County named top county to live, and this would be in the NACO newspaper.
Top county to live, and we'll give it NACO. All right. What else?
Yeah. Our subheadings would be local government efficiency and effectiveness through co-location and collaboration. These are kind of the bullet points that support it.
The supporting details or the main points?
I guess they're the main points underneath the headline.
Okay, go on. What do you got?
Local government efficiency and effectiveness through co-location and collaboration. So we also talked about the combined government facility, the new courthouse concept.
All right, efficiency and effectiveness through collaboration
and co-location.
And co-location.
And then effective use of technology to improve access, efficiency, and communication.
Technology to improve, say it one more time.
Access, efficiency, and communication.
Efficiency and communication. Okay.
And then expanded county forest improves long-term funding, local economy, and recreation.
Expanded county forest improves long-term funding,
local economy, and recreation.
And recreation. Okay.
And then stable funding from solid tax base improved forest funding and tapping the recreational base.
Stable funding from tax base.
Improve forest funding,
Improve forest.
the revenue from forestry,
Okay.
and then revenue from recreational base.
Revenue from recreational base. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. What, anything else on this one?
No, I think that was it, unless anybody else in the group has something you want to throw in that I missed.
Any supporting details or buzz?
I mean, I guess the buzz would be that people are excited to see solutions at the local level. Problems being solved from within a community, not waiting for the federal or the state government to fix it.
I'll fix my spelling later. All right. Any imagery that came to mind when you guys were talking?
We didn't really talk about imagery. Did anybody else in the group want to throw in an image? I'm imagining the same recreational photo that Hood River County is famous for.
Let's see if I can find something.
Doug, you're muted.
Yeah, one other point we had on there is county forest doubles.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't specific. I wasn't specific on the expanded county forest. Yeah, it was the doubling.
It's not just a little bit; it's a lot. But it's Les did a great job there, and you know, the other group had a lot of the same recreational concept ideas. So I don't think, you know, pretty much very similar to that with the trail system we have, that likely would expand, continue to expand relative to our forest holdings expanding.
Okay, I don't know if this is a good recreation photo, but we can throw something in there. Anything else? This one might be better. I don't know who that is, but somebody enjoying the trails. All right. Anyone, anything else from team 3? Okay. Just so you guys can see how this is all coming together, I'll do a quick share. So we've got team 3 over here. We'll put this image there. Their buzz, their main points. It's the top county to live, published in NACO. All right, let's see. Let's hear from team 1.
Okay, so I got designated as the speaker. So we had settled on a headline: Hood River County does the impossible, reaches goals, creating affordability, sustainability, and livability.
Hood River County does the impossible, reaching goals, and what was
creating affordability, sustainability, and livability.
Affordability, sustainability, and livability. All right.
And then we had some main points, and Mike will probably need to help me on this, but Hood River County receives commitment from federal government for continual guaranteed PILTs. Do you want to finish me on that one, Mike?
PILTs payments in the amount of $35 per acre of federal land in Hood River County, with the focus of covering infrastructure and search and rescue for the 65,000 acres of federal lands.
Oh,
Maybe a little long, Sarah.
It may be a little long. I was actually going to go back to, I know you sent, here it is, in your document. I will just copy and paste it. All right.
Want it summarized?
What was that?
Do you want it summarized?
Well, I have in here, so I put down funding from federal government, guaranteed PILTs payments in the amount of $35 per acre. Do you want to add another summary point to that? Or do you want to
You
summarize it
probably don't even
differently?
have to say $35 per acre. Just say it covers the costs of the infrastructure and search and rescue.
Okay, covers cost of infrastructure and search and rescue. All right, excellent.
So we had a second main point of 2024 state legislature changes land use policies, increasing livability and ability to build within the Odell area.
All right, so state legislature changes land use policies, increasing livability.
Yes.
And
And the ability to create housing in the Odell area, additional living units in the Odell area.
Odell area, not the Irish spelling like last time.
No.
All right, got it.
Park and camping development increases revenue to Hood River County.
Park and camping development increases revenue. Okay.
Hood River County reviews processes to streamline and consolidate services and properly fund departments.
Sorry, county streamlines.
To streamline.
County to streamline process.
Consolidate services and properly fund departments.
Services and properly fund departments. Okay.
And am I missing anything, guys, on the main points?
I think we're saying that we came up with a process for extracting dollars from the tourism industry to help cover the costs.
To cover the cost of
tourism.
Oh, extract dollars from tourism to cover tourism costs. Okay.
And we did have in the buzz area, probably our more notable comment was let's see, public is bewildered and amazed, county becomes self-reliant, didn't need to renew local option levy.
Public is bewildered and amazed, self-reliant.
Well done, team one.
And didn't need to renew levy.
Local option levy.
Local option levy.
And another one we had in the buzz, other counties, elected officials and employees are envious of Hood River County's new status.
Other counties, elected officials and employees are
envious of Hood River County.
Envious of Hood River County. Okay. Anything else in the buzz?
Anytime, day or night, 911 is available to answer your call.
Okay.
We had a community person make a statement that they had been saving for a down payment, and the current zoning changes in Odell allowed them to finally get a down payment on a house and realize home ownership.
Okay.
I think we also, in some of the brainstorming areas, we were still sort of working on the tourism funding, I think. We talked about, in the supporting details, we talked about the ability for the county to push messaging actively and continuously push messaging out to the public. Getting information out to everybody.
Okay. Anything else?
Am I missing anything, team?
Do you guys want to take a look? Did you have any imagery that came up? I'm going to share the screen so you can see. Do you
So I
guys?
know, Sarah, on mine that I had given you, there were some images you could probably slot a couple of those in.
Yes, let me pull those. I have it open. Let me find the right window here.
When I did mine, I had a picture of somebody landing on the moon.
Ooh.
It seems like it's almost as difficult.
Let's see, here's, okay, landing on the moon. Give me just a second. Here we go.
Not the one that says fake.
Oh, wait, which one?
Not the one that says fake.
Does that say fake on it? Hold on.
One of them
There's
does.
one.
Oh, I see. Yep, I see what you're talking about. I was like, wait, which did I pull the wrong one here? Let's take this one. This is great. All right. We'll put this over here.
There you go.
There we go. Okay, anything else you guys want to add to your story? Put this up here. It looks pretty, so there's some, what's cool about this exercise is I already heard some common themes. So if we kind of zoom out here, you guys all talked about this idea of consolidation and streamlining process. That came up in everybody's. In enhancing the recreational experience, I think that came up in everybody's. Stable funding in some capacity came up in everybody's. What do you guys think of this exercise? I'm going to stop sharing for a second so we can see everybody. Reactions? Was this helpful to start thinking about how this vision can come together? One of the Commissioner Babbitts asked when I was dropping in on the call or in the chat rooms, like, how does this help us get to the goals? And so before you even start to think about the goals, you want to set a vision to make sure we're all agreeing on the direction that we're headed. And so now this helps to set us up to be able to think about, okay, well, what's the vision going to be now that we have some common themes that have emerged here? And once we can agree on that vision, then we can think about, okay, now how are we going to get there? What are the goals and the steps to advance us towards it? Commissioner Benton?
I think it was helpful. I think initially I was unclear on what to do. And I think it became a little difficult trying to, after putting some thought into, kind of my own plan or story, news story, vision, how we mashed all of those together was a little difficult. But I think going through the exercise was helpful in the end.
Good. I don't know whose hand was raised first, Commissioner Babbitts or Chair Oates. Commissioner Babbitts, go ahead.
Okay, I was a little skeptical when we started because to me, one of the jobs of government is to avoid making headlines, that everything is this concept of quiet competence that I think is very fundamental and very important. But what I see, everyone came up with very positive headlines. So I think we kind of worked around that and came up with headlines about, the sort of thing that would never actually be a headline, because people don't write headlines about how great everything is going, but we got to write those headlines. So, good for us. So I think it worked out well, but I admit that I was skeptical.
Well, good. I appreciate your honesty and your skepticism and playing along regardless of that, because I think you guys came up with some really good ideas. Chair Oates?
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned when I first started this too. Of course, I couldn't write the things in the squares like I was supposed to do, so I was a little confused. But it did make me think.
We're getting a little bit of feedback. Did we?
I don't know why.
It seems to happen when you're moving around.
Let's try. Is that better?
Do I get feedback now?
Nope. Now we're fine.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from.
I don't know either.
I think it was from Lisa's phone.
I think it might have been. I think I muted it and we're good.
Okay. Anyway, after going through the process, I've spent a few hours yesterday going through it, and it really did make me think about, okay, where do we want to be 5 years from now? And what are the different steps that we need to get there? And we talked about a lot of different ones, and it was interesting when we did talk as a group. We changed some of the ideas that I had, and I like the changes that we made. So it was a good process. Thank you.
Great. Any other comments on this exercise? Well, I think we have a lot to work with. I want to debrief this more and think about some of the themes, but we feel like we're at a natural spot for a break, and we're a little ahead of that. So why don't we just go ahead and take our 10-minute break now? And when we come back, we'll start to extract some of the themes from these conversations and start to think about what is that vision that we're going to come together around. And through this process, we may also start to see some of the goals start to emerge, because again, there were some common themes that came up in this conversation, and that also sync up with some of the things we heard in our context conversation. So let's take 10 minutes now. It's 3:31. By the time you guys are off, it'll be 3:32. So let's come back at 3:42 and we'll continue our work. Sound good? All right, see you soon. All right, we should have everybody kind of coming back to rejoin us. Welcome back, welcome back. Here they come. Okay. Well, while you guys were on break, I went through and was just kind of looking at this again, thinking about some of the themes. But before I offer up some of the things that I saw, I'd love to hear your reactions from just what you guys heard, some of the common threads in these stories. And maybe, you know, just for the sake of everybody's engagement, let's go around and hear something from everyone. And so I'll start up in the corner. Trish, would you mind sharing first? What was something that you heard? A common thread?
Well, it was overwhelmingly positive,
Okay.
which is nice coming out of this past year that hasn't quite been so positive.
All right. Jeff, what about something that you heard?
You know, one of the consistent themes that I heard had to do with the county's forest.
Okay.
And the recreational use and expansion of the forest. You know, that was one of the bullet points I think that was pretty consistent, and how important that is as it relates to overall what the county is able to do.
Okay. Let's see. Next up, Tina. Anything that struck you? Common theme?
It was definitely the forest and the recreational part more than anything. And the collaboration, I noticed there was a theme there.
Okay.
The willingness to collaborate, which I think is very positive for county. Yeah, I think that'll benefit the public.
Okay. Chair Oates, what was something that you heard?
Fiscal, excuse me, stability. But
Yeah.
actually, could I say one other thing though?
Sure.
More surprising to me is what I didn't hear.
And what was
I
that?
didn't hear a single word about agricultural repairs, which is actually pretty huge in Hood River County.
Didn't hear about agricultural what?
Or pears,
Or pears. Got it. Okay.
EARS, pears.
Got it. Thanks.
And I don't know if that's because that industry kind of just seems to keep going by itself and doesn't need as quite much governance, but it's just a little strange to be talking about the future and not one word about those.
Okay, I'll put
This
that
is-
off.
Yeah, this is Jeff. That did come up in our work group. Commissioner Babbitts actually brought that up. He talked about agriculture, so it did come up. I just didn't specifically mention it in my report out.
Okay, so it did come up in two of the groups. Who else?
I think too that agriculture, I think that housing is an important issue with regards to agriculture.
Okay. Okay, well, let's see. Commissioner Benton, important theme that you heard?
I think one that stuck out to me, I guess, was the consolidation of services and buildings. I think that in order for us to move toward sustainability, especially fiscally, we need to really look at consolidation in every possible way. So I was glad to see that everywhere.
Yeah, that was definitely a main one that came out. Michael, what was something that you heard?
Well, there's definitely a belief that things can improve. It wasn't doubtful. I mean, there's a positive tone to everything. I think what stuck with me was a lot of the themes were repetitive, isn't the word, but they're themes that I've heard before as far as recreation, the forest. Sometimes you need to think outside the box, but then sometimes you need to admit when your box is inside a barrel, you can only go so far. I mean, that's what the county's focused on. But it was positive. It's good to hear.
Yeah.
Wait, you got to say that again. When your box is inside a barrel, what does that mean?
Oh, well, I've heard that before, that, you think outside the box. Well, if your box is sitting inside a barrel, you can only go so far outside the box and you just keep going in circles anyway. It wasn't meant to be a negative.
No, I've never heard that expression.
All right, I'm going to capture it and we can.
I like it. I think it defines the situation that we're in well.
I've never heard that either, but I love it. All right. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for expanding our horizons there. All right, Cheryl, what was something that resonated with you?
I felt like I heard discussions around communication in different formats. I think IT technology, that kind of stuff. I felt like I heard that mentioned.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Babbitts.
Okay, yeah, I was surprised and pleased to hear sort of a unanimity to the concepts of consolidation, of the value of consolidation, as well as the forest recreation value. Two things which I believe in, but I was surprised to hear that everybody seems to support those ideas in concept.
Yeah, so I've got both of those on the chart so far. Good. Commissioner Perkins?
Yeah, similar to Commissioner Babbitts. Those were two that were tops on my list, and also kind of the theme of using technology. I feel like it's come up both days that we've done this.
Yes. Yeah, it came up prominently in the interviews too. So I'm not surprised to hear it and glad you guys are raising it in different contexts here. All right, Doug. Oh, you're on mute.
Always the mute. No, very positive comments all around. A lot of consensus on, the county forest, the recreation-based industry that we have. How do we in extracting the revenue or tying the revenue to the recreation is very important. And then kind of the new thing, although the commissioners have talked about pieces of it at the meetings, but at prior meetings, but really, I think as a group today, folks really did speak out on local governments consolidation of our location on maybe a campus level type of thing, and I think so that really stood out.
Yeah, definitely. That was really clear. John.
I think everything that I thought has already been said. I am impressed with the level of hope that seems to be coming through the vision that is coming together.
Yes, it's definitely a good positive tone here. All right, Commissioner Joplin.
There were a number of comments around additional, different, or new revenue sources that could potentially replace the need to renew the operational levy and not need it in the future. I found that inspiring.
Yeah, I was hoping somebody was going to mention that. Okay, Eric.
What I heard was a lot of discussion about budgets stability and self-sufficiency.
Yes, definitely a theme here. Okay, Belinda.
I think it's, well, it's been said many times already, but the consolidation of services, I was surprised and happy to hear that many people were thinking on that.
Good. Yeah, good theme there. Okay, Tony.
To get all my mutes going here. Yeah, this is kind of the same thing. The consolidation and the forestry one intrigued me. I had never heard that before, expanding possibly forestry. And I guess the thing I would want to add is what I think is relevant is hearing solutions that are different, meaning, you know, you try the same things over and over again expecting the same results. And there's a couple of suggestions like the consolidation of you know, county, city, or whatever, obviously have never been done before. So maybe that is a path to success, is, you know, doing something completely new and unique. So that's what kind of struck me.
Yeah. Thank you for that insight, Tony. Heidi. Heidi, are you with us? We'll come back and see if Heidi jumps in. Brian?
You know, common themes, you know, the funding seemed to be the most common theme amongst the groups to me. So fixing the funding.
Fixing the funding. Okay. Did I miss anybody? Heidi, did you ever come back?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can.
I think my earphones maybe have gone on the fritz. A bit of an echo of some other comments surrounding the consultative services, which can look a lot of different ways. Could be internal, could be external, but I think a key part that would go with that would be increased efficiencies with technology will be really necessary. And that was certainly something, a theme that was throughout all the teams as well, which was nice.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I've been grouping these and so I'm going to share the screen so you guys can see how, as you've been talking, I've been kind of mapping them out here. So there's definitely, you know, a theme here around recreation and forest. This is the one, the agriculture, you guys didn't bring it up specifically in your groups, but you did say that all three groups touched on it in some capacity. So I put it out here and maybe we move it in. I think it may be a little more discussion around it. There's definitely a theme here around just enhancing fiscal stability. So, you know, maybe not needing the levy in the future, additional new revenue sources, budget stability, self-sufficiency. So definitely a solid theme there. And then these two, I put them in different categories, and maybe it's easier to look at them next to each other. But there's this idea of consolidation of services and buildings, and just, you know, maybe there's a willingness to collaborate. There's also this theme around communication, or I'm not sure if it's communication or maybe just it's around technology. But just looking at the value of consolidation, how it could look different. You know, this potentially a local government campus. So any reactions to how I grouped that? Does this prompt any other thoughts for anybody?
I had one thought, if I could jump in.
Please.
There was a concept that came up in a few of the discussions about the fundamental competence of government. And I think in our group we talked about winning awards for budgeting practices and for I think Commissioner Perkins used the idea of an article in the National Association of Counties magazine. So just fundamental competence, I guess. Yeah, there you go. I don't know how important awards are, but just the idea that government, that there are basic structures. I thought of Tony talking about things and about simply the fact that we avoid having any major IT crises. That's sort of a given, but we need to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm glad you raised that. That came up in the interviews too, of kind of this just having sound foundational systems to ensure sustainability and just efficiency. It's like it's hard to be progressive. This is a theme that's coming up with all the local governments I'm working with this year. I was just having this conversation 3 other times today about how I think in light of the pandemic and COVID and everything that's happened, it's pointed out some gaps in a lot of different systems in government. And so it's kind of this call back to basics of like making sure that foundations are really sound before you can move on with doing really progressive work. And this seems to be a theme or a key learning that's coming out of this 2020 pandemic situation. What else? Anybody else, as you look at this, how this chart's kind of being organized, is there anything missing there that didn't come up in our conversations yet, but maybe we talked about it in the context piece that you feel like should be represented in this vision?
Can you point to where is the communication part? Oh, there it is. I'm sorry.
It's down here, yeah. And again, I'm not sure. I feel like this is its own thing because you guys did talk about engagement and it came up in your vision stories as far as I wrote down in my notes something about, the Hood River's leading in the polls and the community's really supportive of the direction of the county. And so I think there is something around communication and engagement that maybe that came up in your vision stories. And you guys definitely talked about it in your interviews of how can we do better to engage the diverse community. It came up in our context conversations. So I don't know if maybe we frame this as communication and engagement.
I would definitely add that word.
And then I don't know, and then technology feels like it could go both here and here. If you think, I don't know if this is just consolidation or if it's more about government efficiency.
I also think technology is part of your fundamental competence of the government. I think it would fit up above as well in part of your basic capabilities.
I think it fits across many of those. I mean, it's systems,
Yes.
really.
Yes.
Okay. Eric, I see your hand up.
One other issue that was discussed pretty significantly and is kind of touched upon under agriculture is just affordable housing.
Yeah, that didn't come up. Well, it did come up in some of your stories. So I feel like that's probably its own area. Would you guys agree? Yes, I'm seeing some head nods. Maybe it's better to ask, does anybody disagree?
Well,
No?
this is Mike Oates. I think affordable housing, agriculture or not agriculture, it's a problem. Even outside of agriculture, it's a problem for the affordable housing. It's not just agriculture.
In a lot of respects, I feel like it's more of an issue outside of agriculture. Agriculture has systems to provide housing in ways that other areas of the economy don't.
That's correct.
There's more funding streams available for agricultural housing than there is just about any other type of housing.
Okay. Brian.
Let's see, did I get myself unmuted? One thing I didn't hear, you asked for thoughts on this. I didn't hear from all groups staff retention. And as a director of a department, who's struggled with staff retention. I can't emphasize enough how important that is to our organization.
And Brian, in our group, that was a point that came out, retention. And I think one of the things when I was going through my process was definitely thinking about the happiness and the just the job satisfaction from staff within the organization. Just how that creates.
So that
If I
came
could add
up
a-
in team one as well, Brian.
Yeah,
If
I
I could-
had that noted in my notes as themes too. Commissioner Benton?
I don't know exactly how to bring this up. It's related to housing. I think we're in a unique position because this has come up a lot across multiple, I guess, agencies, and it's really difficult to address the affordable housing thing in Hood River County when the state system is kind of set up to not give us the tools to do that at the county level. They give us some, but we're greatly limited as opposed to the city who has a lot more tools at their disposal. So it's definitely an issue, but I guess I want to know, I think we need to have a conversation at some point about what we're looking at as far as a scope with respect to how do we address the housing problem, because it's a little difficult to come up with a lot of great ideas that would in theory address the housing issues, but then they aren't, we aren't able to implement them because of state regulation or whatever. So-
I have a follow-up question for you on that. And Commissioner Babbitts, I see your hand, so I'll call on you here in just a second. Has it been clearly defined what the county's role is in supporting affordable housing?
We
You guys talked
historically
about
we've had different roles. I mean, we're part of the housing authority, a regional housing authority.
Okay.
So there's Section 8 housing in that. There's quite a few different housing programs with funding sources for first-time home buyers and a lot of different resources. And then we've also land banked. So we've played that role
Okay.
in land banking. But no, I don't know as we've ever really said these are the sets of things that we're going to do.
I think it gets,
Isn't it in the comp plan?
what was that?
Isn't it in our comprehensive plan? It's one of the state goals, isn't it? It's part of one of the state goals.
Can staff-
Availability and affordability of housing for all across the board.
Yeah, I don't put any stock in the state's comprehensive plan or the fact that it's stated in any plan, because my experience, the state has been zero help in terms of dealing with affordable housing.
Oh, I'm not saying that I'm asking the state to help. I'm saying that it is, in terms of, is it a goal of ours? It's stated in our comprehensive plan, so it's certainly a goal of ours.
I don't think we've ever. I think what she was asking was, wow, it's raining a little hard here. I think what she was asking is, have we ever clarified what our role is in terms of housing?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because I don't think that we have actually went through that process. I think that I guess that's what I was getting at when I was bringing this up. It'd be very valuable because it's hard for us to understand actually how much we can impact that from the county government. And I'm interested in doing everything we can, but you sit on some of these boards where it's just continually our number one priority over and over and over. But if we're doing everything we can, I don't know. It's just a conversation we need to have at some point at the commission level to really define what our role is in that. So thank you. That's a great question.
Yeah, again, I think this is coming up in a lot of goal setting I'm doing around the state this year, is how to address homelessness and how to address affordable housing. And they're two things that are very linked. But what jurisdictions are struggling with is what's the role. And so when you think about how to set, I'm asking because when you think about how to set realistic goals around these things, you want to be clear on what that role is so that your goals are aligned. If you're supporting other organizations to implement things, if you're, supporting with funding, be clear about that so that the goals are realistic. Commissioner Babbitts?
Yeah, so on that subject, I thought one of the groups actually had a really elaborate description of that, talking about housing in Odell, someone being able to do a down payment on the house in Odell. So I thought that really was a vision along those lines, and I put that in that category. But what I wanted to add, the discussion about staff retention was a really interesting one. And I actually think about it in two different areas. And there's a sub bubble that you put on of job satisfaction and morale. But the other issue I see with staff retention is continuity. And I think this is always a problem with government. Maybe it's part of the fundamental competence issue, but it's also in terms of the public's engagement with government, that when you have governments that are constantly changing in personnel, there's no continuity, so people don't know who they're dealing with, and they don't, and you don't have the continuous ability to deliver services. So the continuity is always a really big issue for me, and you get that through staff retention.
Yeah, those two are certainly very linked. Okay, other reactions? Well, can we talk more about this one on agriculture that came up and after the fact, but you can see these other areas are really clear goals. I'm not sure like they're not quite clear goals yet. We're going to work on refining those, but you can see there's goal areas that are starting to emerge. So tell me how agriculture fits into this story, into the vision. I know it's part of the history. It's a big part of the economy. But how does it fit into the future or the vision?
This is Mike Oates. I can probably talk about that a little bit. The problem with agriculture and some of these other goals is sometimes they're in conflict with each other. Agriculture has certain uses, certain processes that go through that are a little bit of a problem if they're next to residences or people who don't appreciate what the farmers have to do to grow the fruit. And so sometimes you have to work through those differences. And we have rules in Hood River County. We have some that have been passed down, obviously from the state as well, to try and protect the ag land from the encroachment from the non-ag uses. And it bottom line is it causes a problem there too, because if you restrict trying to save all the farmland, you run out of land for people to live on. And so it's just a huge balancing act. And I've watched it for 40 years, and it's amazing to me that we're still here as agriculture with all the pressure and the desire to live here in Hood River County, but it's still here. And Bob, you've been around this enough. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see, and we've done a little bit on the commission in the past few years, which has been just having the county commission support behind the agricultural community. And if we need, letters of support and stuff, that's good. I think with respect to ag, our biggest problems in ag have nothing to do with Hood River County. So I think that if we can just, from my perspective, it's getting, just having support behind the agricultural industry that's here locally from the commission. But it would be maybe useful to have more conversations about it. I guess when I think of all the help that we need in order to continue to have a prosperous agricultural community, the county commission isn't at the top of the list. So I guess figuring out how to, anything we can do to help, I guess. I don't know. It's difficult. We've never really had a lot of talks about it at the commission level, I guess.
And I think part of it comes from the fact that it's always been a pillar, recognized pillar of our economy, and has always had a pretty strong influence in decisions that commissions made over the years. And so when you're visioning forward, I think it's kind of natural to say, well, that's already a big piece. It's been a big piece. There's a lot of support and infrastructure already there. And when you're looking to the future and trying to envision a different future, I think you naturally tend to look towards those things that need more help and need to be developed further.
Yeah, Commissioner Babbitts?
I guess the way that I look at it, and last time I brought this up, I wound up getting yelled at by Ron Rivers, so I'm going to be careful how I say it. But to me, agriculture is the heart and soul. It's kind of an emotional center to Hood River, but it's not the muscle. Numerically, it isn't what drives our county's economy, but it's what we think of ourselves as, and therefore is so fundamental and so important. So I think it is very important that the commission continue to take actions to protect the viability of agriculture within our county. And it's going to become harder and harder as our industrial center grows. But you know, it's one of those things that deserves more attention than the dollars would say.
Okay. Any other comments on that? Commissioner Joplin, I feel like everybody's weighed in on it. I want to make sure if you have something to say, please share.
No, not really. It's been covered really well. I disagree with Les when you talked about there was the 3 legs to the stool for our county for decades, and agriculture has definitely always been one of them and will be in the future. So it certainly needs to be considered in its own light, as it is quite different, like Commissioner Benton pointed out.
Okay.
This is Jeff. As it relates to agriculture, at least from my perspective, and I don't know if it's real or not, but there's conflict in the county between those that have various economic interests, and sometimes that is more apparent than others, but there just seems to be an underlying conflict. And the reality is there's synergy between the sectors and they depend on each other, but it doesn't always play out in terms of how people perceive what's going on. And sometimes, at least for me, it's uncomfortable.
Okay, so there's some underlying conflict there between industries, you said?
Yeah, specifically, I'll say between tourism and agriculture.
Okay. Oops. And those are both it's kind of central to Hood River's identity. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Benton?
Yeah, I guess just as somebody in the ag industry, I guess I get a little bit tired of being the soul of Hood River, and hearing somebody that isn't involved in the industry tell me that's what I am. You know, I guess it's just you know, I usually hear that from people that vote ways that don't benefit my business and the soul and heart of the community. So I'm not accusing Commissioner Babbitts of that. It's just oftentimes those folks that tell me how important I am seem to not understand how my business works. So I don't know. It's a delicate subject. I think Jeff brought it up a little bit, but yeah, we're an odd group, the farmers in Hood River County and all over. Farmers are just a really interesting group of people. So, but it's a challenge to, I guess, align.
Okay.
There's going to be conflict.
Okay. Commissioner Joplin?
I was just going to comment on something that Jeff mentioned about kind of the conflict between tourism and agriculture. It also seems like there's a bit of cross-pollinating and pressure with some of the tourism being based in the agricultural area around with the wineries, and we see all kinds of interesting hobby farms, beekeepers and such popping up in our community. So there's this also kind of growing pressure of cross-pollinating between the tourism piece in Hood River and the agricultural base.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Perkins?
Great for a conversation at a commission meeting, just similar to housing where we figure out our scope and how we want to be involved.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to add that. So what's the county's role in this? Okay, Commissioner Perkins, sorry, go ahead.
I think Commissioner Joplin brought up a point that's I think been popping into my mind a lot lately, is that increase in ag-related tourism and the pressure to do more with ag land that sometimes conflicts with farming practices is going to be I see that as an area that we're going to have to deal with and confront and think about. But I also think that I think what Arthur's saying about the kind of the soul of Hood River County. I think what gets overlooked a lot of times is that ag land is what, and this is true in all of Oregon, ag land is what provides much of the open space that people appreciate. And it has wildlife benefits. It has environmental benefits. There's just a ton of things that people don't take into account that ag impacts. And certainly tourism is driven heavily by recreation, but it's also driven by people wanting to come out into an area with beautiful agricultural fields and orchards and all those pieces. So it's all interwoven. And
You mean no concrete?
yes, an act of people making a living off the land. I think there is a huge romantic draw to that, and so I think yes, I can see it being irritating to be romanticized when it's your job that you do every day, but it is a big draw.
Okay. All right. Thank you for elaborating on that. I think we've got a lot of ideas over here. It certainly feels like it's part of the vision and thinking about what the county's role is in this and what the goal is going to be to kind of preserve and protect that and do that balancing act. We'll have to have some more conversation around it. All right. Anything else? I want to shift back to the context for a second and just have you guys, let's just glance at that and see if we missed, when we think about any of these opportunities, were there any big themes here that we didn't touch on? So communication and engagement, that's represented. The work structure and service delivery, I think that's represented. Embracing technology, IT, the Odell area. So I put that in under housing. Financial sustainability. This one here, ideas for additional revenue. So I think that also falls under financial sustainability. Staffing, compensation, retention. I think that's represented in there. And again, we'll have an opportunity to clarify all of these things, but I just want to make sure we haven't missed any big things. Succession planning. I think that we might want to put that as a bubble somewhere under, as we think about systems and retention and staffing. I feel like it probably goes in that category. Forest land, that's in there. Structural changes, that's covered. This one, again, financial sustainability, that's in there, but building public trust under, when we think about community engagement, I think that could be represented there. This one, I don't know if this is in there. Oh, I guess under housing, this would fit. You could have some conversation around that as a potential action item, but looking at the code to address housing needs. And as we update codes and plans, input from the workforce on how these things impact departments. All right, so I feel like we covered all of those opportunities. Did I miss anything? Any challenges, problems down here that we didn't touch on? We didn't talk much about this legalization of drugs or any like public safety type stuff. Is there anything there that needs to be, Commissioner Babbitts?
On the succession planning, I think I would broaden that to include emergency planning, and that's governmental emergency planning, ability to continue operations. And that fits under the basic competence, but often gets ignored, because we don't have emergencies very often. But our recent gas outage was a good example where things actually, the emergency operations actually worked pretty well. I was happy to see that, but you see the dependence we have, and you realize that if that had been an earthquake, where we not only didn't have gas but didn't have electricity either, and where it was going to last for months instead of days, it's important that we all know that we have those plans in place.
Okay, I put that in over there. Thank you. Chair Oates?
Just to add on with what Arthur's talking about there, I think flexibility is huge. I mean, and like Arthur said, with what just happened with the gas situation in Hood River, it's not just our energy sources that we need to be flexible on in case we have accidents. It's our operations of our governments as well, in case we have situations where some things aren't working right now. We need to be flexible. We need to have options.
In government operations.
Government operations and energy sources.
Okay. All right, looking back to this again, problems. And so again, there's some stuff in here around public safety, mental health, legalization of drugs. Is there anything, are we missing any opportunities there?
I think that those fit into the consolidation of services, number one, and number two, into basic competence of government, that those are fundamental services which we are, which either obligated or believe are required to provide and should be providing.
Okay. Staff, anybody from staff want to weigh in on that? On this topic? Again, these were things that came up in some of the interviews, things you guys raised in the context, and I don't want it to get completely left out.
This is Jeff. That I had understood that we have the legalization of cannabis, but I thought the item that was brought up last time actually had to do with the decriminalization of what I would call heavier duty drugs, and how that may manifest itself in terms of social ills in Oregon, and specifically in Hood River County. I don't know that there's necessarily a goal around that, but I have a hard time believing that all of Oregon won't have an impact as a result of that.
Yeah, that's what I recalled too, which is kind of why I was raising it as, the mental health piece. It felt all very interconnected, and how those things are going to be prosecuted and what the impacts are going to be on your systems, on your jails. Again, not sure if it's its own thing, but maybe we keep it out here. I'll put it in fundamental competence of government, and maybe next time we'll have you guys give it some more thought and reflection, and we can have some more conversation around it.
Sarah, this is Belinda. I think there was also a little bit of conversation about being proactive in the what could occur with the legalization of this. So on the prevention side of trying to be proactive in education and information.
Okay. So prevention and being proactive. All right, I'll just kind of keep these three together, so we have some recollection of that. Okay. So we've got right now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 major themes here. Does anybody want to take a stab at proposing a vision statement for the center? Some people really like this kind of stuff. Now that you've got all the ideas out here and people there are some who are so skilled at wordsmithing, and I don't want to get into wordsmithing too much, but if somebody has a genius idea they'd like to throw out there, we don't have to settle on it right today. We can do some refinement, but if you have an idea, please share as you look at all of this.
You talking about like one word, Sarah?
Not necessarily one word. So I imagine like a simple statement that describes the desired future of the county in 5 years. And so in here we have, a recreation and forest, affordable housing, fiscal stability, communication and engagement, kind of protecting, preserving, maintaining that pillar of the economy, the agriculture industry, and a strong, competent government. So some of the themes that pop out to me is having a livable community that's fiscally stable. I think the fiscal sustainability piece feels huge for Hood River. It was a huge theme in all of the conversations that we had. I think it relates to all of these issues in some shape or form. And so fiscal stability, getting back to the fundamentals to ensure you've got good systems in place, and then to enhance the livability of the community. Those are some of the themes that jump out to me. Any reactions to that?
I think we're missing a robust response and public health system. And I think this COVID has been a good reminder of that.
Okay, so robust response and public health system. Did I capture that right? Okay, thanks, Trish.
I've got an idea.
Yeah.
Back to the basics to move forward to the future.
Okay. Anybody have a reaction or another proposal? Or even if there's a word that you hope ends up in there.
I liked it. I liked Arthur's. I guess one that I was thinking of is improved government.
Okay, something about improved government in there.
Or excellence in government. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this should be your vision. So it should, I mean, it should feel inspirational. So it should be a big, bold statement. It shouldn't just be good government. It should be that, you know, you guys talked about in your, if you go back to your vision, your headlines over here, what a difference 5 years makes, top county to live in. So it should be a big, bold statement. It should force you to stretch. It should feel like there's a stretch there.
Sarah, that was going to be my comment. I was thinking a vision statement is more of a strong statement of where we will be in the future, and not necessarily descriptive or expressing hopefulness, that it's more statement driven for the future. Yes.
So once we take all of these ideas, we'll formulate it into a statement, but you're exactly right that it should state the future desired state of the county.
Sarah,
So I would suggest looking at the article titles, the headlines, and making a combination of the headlines.
And Sarah, if I could just expand on mine a little bit, example of excellence in government.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Okay, yes, so going back, looking at the headlines, Hood River County does the impossible, reaches goals, creating affordability, sustainability, and livability. So let's copy this one over. And then we've got, we'll turn it so it doesn't make us dizzy here. Okay, and then we have Hood River County, what a difference 5 years makes. And then we have
Sarah, this is Belinda. While you're doing that, does this, what's going to end up being a vision statement, need to be worked in with our mission statement, or will that be revised?
No, if we need to revise the mission statement, you certainly can. That hasn't come up yet. The mission statement, the way I describe this for groups, the mission statement describes your purpose. It's your reason for being. The vision statement describes where it is that you're going. So that future desired state. So right now, the mission statement, somebody help me remember exactly how that's worded. Does anybody remember off the top of their head?
A small county with a big mission, quality of life for all.
Yeah.
So quality of life for all is a pretty succinct, pretty meaningful statement.
All right, Commissioner Perkins.
I was just going to say that I think effective and efficient has come up a lot.
Yeah, it has. Okay. So so some words here that we have to kind of play around with. So back to the basics to move forward in the future. An example of excellence in government, effective and efficient. And then, top county to live, doing the impossible, affordability, sustainability, livability. I really like those 3 words. Those are good. And then what a difference 5 years makes. And we don't have to, I can take all of this and craft a statement for you guys to react to via email. Does that feel like a good approach? I don't want us to have to sit here and wordsmith this right this second, but I want to give people an opportunity to at least reflect and share any thoughts they have. Doug?
Yeah, just one thing you might consider under the recreation and forest category. I would really like to see that as being forests and recreation rather than recreation and forest. And that might sound really minor to most people, but forestry is really a priority for us. And it's great that we have a lot of recreation that we add to that. But relative to the way we use the forest for revenue to provide county services, forest is really the priority. And so even just by saying it first, it's a tree farm for us. That's really important.
Thank you, Doug. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, and again, we'll have more opportunities to play around with wording of these things, but that's a good point. Okay, anything else? All right, what we'll do next then is I'll do some work on crafting a vision statement using this language, and you guys can provide your reactions to it and share your feedback. All right. Let's see. Next on our agenda, we have just talking through how we're going to define the goals and actions. So I put together a little graphic for you guys to help get you thinking about this next piece. So we talked about the mission being your purpose, right? That's why the organization exists, and providing quality of life for all. And as far as the vision goes, that's what we're working on, but we're coming into focus here. So got some good language there. We'll get the vision that describes the desired future state. When we get to the goals and the actions, this is the next step. So we're going to gather all of the ideas. You guys already have, if there's stuff in the works, if there's things that are already underway that we can build on, we want to make sure we're touching on that. New ideas that we should consider. A lot of that came up in the context conversations, those opportunities that we just looked at and are represented here in these bubbles to some degree. But there may be some others. So any other new ideas that we should consider. And then again, looking at those opportunities from the context. So we want to make sure we gather all of the ideas. The next piece of this, we'll take a look at those ideas, and some of them we've already got sorted up here, and we'll refine those into goals and actions. So we'll start to think about which ideas should move forward as shared goals from the group. And when we think about the goals, we want to be clear about what's the desired outcome. So, and goals should start with a verb of some sort. What is it that we're doing? What is the goal, and what's motivating it? And then you start to think about, and it should feel big and broad. And then you start to think about, okay, well, what are some of the supporting actions that are going to help us to get there? And so I think that's kind of what I started to put in the outline bubbles here as I started to sort some of those ideas that you guys were sharing. So the goal is the desired result you want to achieve, broad and long term, and then the action is the incremental step that helps to move the organization towards it. And those actions should feel specific and measurable. The actions are what you end up prioritizing at the end. So you'll have, just to give you a visual of it, you'll have your vision in the center. You'll have your goals that help to move you towards that vision. And then you'll have some actions that fall underneath each goal. And to help give staff direction on, because this is a 5-year plan, on what they might want to consider for the budget proposals coming up this spring, we'll have you guys do some prioritization of what's most important. What do we need to work on first? So that's how we'll start to get into the plan here. So prioritizing the list and then confirming consensus and/or team agreement. The last step of this, which I didn't include a bullet in there, is then to talk about what does implementation look like? How do you create accountability for the plan? So, thinking about staff will work on the work plan part of this, where they assign the actions and decide which staff members are going to lead what initiatives. But thinking about when does the commission want to hear back about progress? And when are we going to take a look at this to update it to make sure the plan stays relevant? So that's where we'll talk about the implementation structure after we get the plan in place. Any questions about this process?
How many more sessions do we have?
I think we have one more with an optional fourth to wrap it up. Am I correct in sharing that, Jeff?
Yes, you are correct.
Okay. Yeah, we talked about there may be a fourth short session just to make sure we have everything wrapped up completely and finalize the conversation. So what I'd like to propose for you guys as an assignment, now that we have these areas starting to come into focus, is I'm going to put you in small groups to start the next session. We might even have time to do a little bit of this today, but to map out any other ideas, to take a look at what we've mapped out so far, and then to think about what ideas are missing. And I think sometimes that's easier to have some conversation in a small group about it, to make sure we've got everything down. And then for homework, have you guys think through how you might refine some of those. So pick an area or two and start to work on what is the goal? How would you frame it? And how might you, formulate some of those supporting actions? Does that make sense? And again, you don't have to write down all the results, but by reflecting on it, it gives us a head start. So when I put you into groups in the next workshop, you've already thought about it, and we're starting from somewhere versus starting from scratch. It's already be warmed up.
Sarah, will you be sending out the storyboard to everybody?
Yes.
So we can, okay.
Yep. I'll send it out. So do you guys want to take the last 20 minutes of this and take 15 minutes and work in small groups to map out some additional ideas? You guys be up for that? See if we've missed anything.
Can I throw a comment out?
What was that?
I'd like to throw a comment out. I think there is a fundamental problem with us doing this process without the sheriff being involved, and I'm wondering what we're going to do to bring him into this process, or to address that, assuming other people agree with me that this is problematic.
So a couple suggestions. I mean, we can certainly provide him all the notes from today's session and have him do the same assignment. Again, there are some things from public safety that are represented in that context, which is why I was raising it, because I'm concerned that it's not showing up here. So I do think that there's some areas maybe that are missing, where we'll need that input. Jeff, any thoughts from you on how to re-engage the sheriff in this conversation to make sure this plan isn't a miss?
Well, I think the sheriff is going to need the documents that are generated out of this particular session.
Yeah. So I think
it would be better in that sense to not start the process today. Wait till the sheriff is involved, and then restart the discussion.
Okay. Other thoughts on that? Is everybody good with that approach? Okay, so why don't we, go ahead, Commissioner Babbitt?
I was just wondering if other commissioners share the concern that I have or not. And if they do share the concern, I'm wondering about scheduling of our next meeting to make sure that the sheriff is part of it.
Well, why is he not here?
I have no idea. I'm just pointing out what I see as a problem.
He had some problems that came up that were unanticipated that he had to deal with and couldn't be here.
Well,
I passed him when I was coming up Highway 35. He was heading down with his lights on, going fast. So, and that was just before.
to have an alternate on hand if he has a situation where he's not able to attend. So at least somebody from his office or somebody can at least participate and relay some of our conversation. When he wasn't here, was he here the first time?
Just for part of it. He was only there at the end.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Benton?
Yeah, to respond to Commissioner Babbitt's question, I do share the same concerns with having him not be here. I also share the frustration with with him not being here or having any representation. We got to figure something out because it not being anywhere on what we did today, at least speaking to public safety, I think is an issue.
Yeah, so I think what we can do is we can pause our work for today and we'll wrap it up. And I put in our next steps to make sure that we communicate back with the sheriff that either make sure that he or first of all, that he's brought up to speed on what we talked about today, and Jeff or I can do a debrief with him just to make sure that he's all briefed on what we talked about, and then make sure that he or a representative is here next time to represent those public safety interests and make sure that that's part of the plan going forward. Okay, so I will send out the notes from today's session with just a few points on how to think about it, how to reflect on it, and to come next time with some ideas about how you might formulate the goals and think about the supporting actions. You guys will do that work again in small groups. I think it's good to have that discussion and then do the report out system. I think there's more engagement that way. I will work up a draft vision statement based on what you shared. So we'll see what I'll take a little break and make sure I come at it with a fresh mind and some creativity and come up with a statement. And then you guys can tear it apart. So you're not going to hurt my feelings. Like I want to make sure that you have your fingers in it and it truly feels reflective for the county and helps to inspire you to move forward. So feel free to be as critical as you'd like, whatever I send you in a draft form. Anything else that we need for follow-up to keep this work moving ahead? All right, not seeing any hands. All right, quick wrap up. Just go around. How's everybody feeling about this process so far? We're halfway there. Good. Maybe thumbs up, thumbs here, not sure, thumbs down. All right.
Excited to get to the goals.
Okay. Commissioner Babbitt, you seemed a little, you're uncertain. Where can you elaborate so that maybe we can make some tweaks for the next go around?
I think what I just expressed, that I'm concerned that we're missing one major piece of our county government in this process. And we've identified that that's an area where we need better interaction between the Board of Commissioners and the Sheriff's Office. And this is not a hopeful start to making that happen.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can remedy that for the next session. Thank you for sharing. All right, everybody, I saw a lot of thumbs up. I didn't see any thumbs down. If I did, please speak up and let me know how we can modify our process to make sure we're headed in the right track, in the right direction. Okay, well, you guys reclaim the last 15 minutes of your day as we wrap up early. I thank you so much for your engagement and participation, and I'll get these notes out to you this evening so that you've got plenty of time because our next session is coming up quickly. So Jeff, can you remind us, are we 2 to 5 again? For the next one, are we back to 1 to 4?
I would have to check myself or defer to Heidi.
Heidi?
Sarah, I believe that we're next Monday, the 11th, from 2 to 5.
Okay, Monday, the 11th from 2 to 5. So I'll get you guys the notes so that you have plenty of time this week to look and reflect on that. The vision statement will probably come on Wednesday, just to manage expectations. All right, so notes first, draft vision statement Wednesday, and we'll connect with the sheriff's office for engagement for the next round. All right, thanks everybody. Have a nice evening. And again, Happy New Year.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.